Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker, shields, death slaves, serfs, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks, limeys. I'm a useful idiot. Welcome. And today I want to talk about this British referendum to possibly leave the Eurozone coming up in June. And I've kind of held off doing anything about this because, of course, we'll find out what happens. But one thing that is interesting to look at right now is the incredibly massive fear campaign being generated to scare the British people into voting to stay in the EU. And I think most people who understand the situation would probably suspect that leaving the EU would be a very good thing for the UK. And the worries that the Eurozone has that it may cause a ripple effect and other countries will leave the Eurozone is probably likely, but that is also probably a good thing. The best thing for the Eurozone would be to break apart. This massive central bank insanity that's going on in the Eurozone and all these crappy banks that have devastated these countries in Europe, this all has to be replaced. And so anyway, I digress. Let's get into some of these facts. First of all, when I Googled Brexit warning, I got 638,000 articles, so there's a massive amount of material. And I only went through probably 10 or 20 pages, and the amount of people who are lined up in this fear campaign about the Brexit is vast and includes every rotten bank, every corporation, every sleazy political scumbag, and every hack academic economist out there is lining up against this Brexit and speaking in no uncertain terms. And this is highlighted by the fact that the UK government is going to spend £9 million of taxpayers' money to drop 20 million leaflets around UK in order to support staying in the Eurozone. And there's articles attached below that have the exact wording of this pamphlet. So once again, paying for global citizens paying for their own slavery, taxpayer money going for these leaflets, these political leaflets. And the other thing about the fear campaign that's interesting is they're really going after your average household, your average worker in the UK, and warning about things that they care about, like mobile. Their mobile phone is going to be disrupted, and it's going to be harder to travel, and their cost of living is going to go up. And this is all just fear mongering of the worst kind. So let's go through this list of all these corporate screwheads and political bootlickers who are out there who are warning about the Brexit. Well, of course, we have the Obama administration, so that should tell you something. Then we have the Center for Economic Performance at the University of London. They said that UK trade and living standards would fall, and household wealth would drop somewhere between £850 and £6,400. Again, going after the little guy and scaring him. Germany's finance ministers already saying that they wouldn't easily agree to an easy trade relationship with the UK, so they're doing their part to undermine the UK exit. French economic minister said, quote, France would roll out the red carpet to the bankers, unquote, because a lot of banks, of course, are threatening to move from the UK to other countries, including France. And France also is threatening to quote, flood the UK with immigrants, unquote. And that's because of an agreement the UK has with France that immigrants will be stopped before they reach the UK. And so, of course, France is really hitting the UK middle class hard by suggesting that they're going to flood the UK with illegal immigrants. George Osborne came out and said that mortgages are going to go up. Once again, going after the little guy and scaring the little guy. He says that the process would be investors would sell off UK assets, which isn't going to happen. Foreign investors are investing all over London, particularly. And then he says there'd be a currency crisis that would increase inflation, and then the Bank of England would raise rates, and then mortgages would go up. And that's not going to happen. The Bank of England's not going to raise rates any more than anybody else is. They'll probably go negative. Bank of England says their quote will be a long period of uncertainty, unquote. The CBI came out and warned that by 2020, they would lose 1 million jobs, and that it would cost 100 billion euros, and there would be a 3,700 pound reduction in household wealth, and the savings would be lost, and the GDP would be 3% lower. All this stuff, they have no idea. The IMF came out and said there would be severe regional global damage. JP Morgan, Citigroup, and BlackRock all warned about lower growth, investment, high unemployment, and inflation. And boy, if you can't trust JP Morgan, Citigroup, and BlackRock, I mean, who can you trust? And that brings up a good point, because we have all these loser banks, these too big to fail banks, and all their criminal activities warning about the Brexit. We got HSBC warning that 1,000 bankers could move from London to Paris. Are they going to be just sending the bankers that launder money for terrorists and drug cartels, or just bankers in general, I wonder? You have Barclays, Royal Bank of Scotland, Deutsche Bank, all warning, all these, once again, too big to fail banks and their criminal cartels all warning about the Brexit. Allied Irish Bank is even warning about the Brexit. Let anybody can remember the tapes, those sleazy fucking bankers in Ireland talking about how they were going to rip people off, and now that bank, even though those bankers are gone, other scum replaced them, and now Allied Irish Bank is out against the Brexit. And we have a standard life insurance company. So we have banks and life insurance and insurance companies. They're warning that it would be, quote, potentially damaging, unquote. Another pattern you notice through all these warnings and all these fear mongering is they're always saying potentially, possibly. So they don't want to really put their foot down and say that things will go bad. They're just suggesting it will, and that's enough. The UK Education Secretary came out and said, quote, don't gamble with your children's future, unquote. Quote, pensioners gambling with their grandchildren's lives, unquote. So more of this reaching for just this emotional knee-jerk reaction, this fear, generating fear in everyone that they're going to ruin their health and damage their children and lose their jobs. And it just goes on and on and on. Richard Branson from Virgin says it'll be a, quote, a tremendous disaster, unquote. Siemens company, German company, is threatening jobs in Britain. Even the UK soccer league has come out and said that they're worried that they're not going to be able to sign good soccer players. And environmental groups have come out and said that the UK will no longer be involved in shaping environmental policy. And AstraZeneca, BMW, the BT Group, Airbus, the London Stock Exchange, even Moody's has come out and issued a downgrade warning. So they're even threatening that they're going to downgrade the UK just for leaving the Brexit. It's automatically going to mean that their economy is downgraded a step or two. And all this fear is just piling up from all, like I say, all the biggest players, all these corporations, and I assume a lot of these corporations and banks are the ones that are hiding all their money offshore and are not contributing to taxes that would help a lot of these countries, including the UK, whether they stay in the Eurozone or not. But that's a whole different story, isn't it? And then we have IMF too, severe regional and global damage. Boy, IMF ought to know, huh? And so there you have it. There's just a cross section of all these people who are out there stirring up this fear campaign, and it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. The EU is the biggest UK trading partner. 44% of everything made in the UK goes to the Eurozone, and that's not going to change if there is a Brexit. In fact, it'll probably go up. So, but my bottom line here, unfortunately, is that there probably will not be a Brexit, and that would be the best thing for the UK, because what's going to happen is this fear campaign is going to work, because everybody and his fucking mom is on board with this fear campaign. Everybody that has a corporate advantage, all the bankers, all the people who really thrive on this global cartel system and all the corruption and fraud and mismanagement that goes on in the Eurozone. It's the best thing for the UK to leave, and all these big players don't want it to happen. So it's too bad. I'd like to see the little people be oblivious to all this manipulation, but I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to happen. The British population is going to be scared shitless listening to all these fucks talk about how their future is going to be ruined, their health's going to go bad, their children are going to suffer, they're going to lose their jobs, and everything's going to go to shit. So that's the way it works. Too bad. Maybe next time. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.